Hey, how's it going everyone? Brian here with another Java game programming tutorial. So I know I said last week that I was sick, and so it was going to be a short episode, and it ended up being like the longest episode in months. But what are you going to do? I am still not feeling great, so this episode actually is going to be kind of short, I think. But after last week's prediction, I should probably just stop predicting the length of episodes altogether. So we worked on last time cleaning up our code a little bit. So not much to show really here for recapping, but we're going to be building on what we did the week before, which was making our interface the entity class, as well as a tower class here, which is going to be an abstract class. And I have this class here that I was testing around with. I forgot to delete it, but I'll just go ahead and delete that now. So don't worry about that. We're going to, like I said, I'm not feeling up to doing too much today, but we are going to get something new on the screen, which is always exciting. So we're going to do a kind of just like to test the waters with our abstract tower class that we're going to make here. We're going to kind of just make a copy of our tower cannon, but a little bit different. And it's going to look different too. So I have here two new textures, cannon base blue and cannon gun blue. And I'm not going to give away the surprise, but I'll just say they're a different color than the ones that we already have in our game. I should probably mention this right now up front. I think I'm going to start, so far all these textures in the game, some people are making their own, but obviously the grass and dirt and water and towers and enemies I've made and supplied in the description or whatever. I think what I'm going to start doing to give a better reward to the patrons that are supporting me on Patreon is releasing any new textures I make just as part of that source code package. So when you get the source code each week, you get all the textures that are included in that as well. But because I didn't give you guys warning, and because this is just really a reskin, this cannon blue, it's honestly just a different color, you can go ahead and check the description of this video and download those. I have two imager links, so just go ahead and download those, right-click, save as, you guys have done this so far, and go ahead and name them appropriately and put them in your resources folder before you continue with this video. So, first things first, our projectile class, I've noticed, is not implementing our entity, which it should be because it's something that is drawn on the screen. And we need to add a bunch of methods here. So let's go ahead and go to add unimplemented methods here. And we need to fill them out. All these little blue marks are methods that we need to fill out now. So get X is obviously just return X. Get Y, return Y, return width, return height, this dot X equals X, this dot Y equals Y, width equals width, and height equals height. Go ahead and get rid of the overrides. We could be using, I'll explain the override in fact this episode because it'll come, it'll be relevant. So what are we doing wrong here? Do we not have a width and height for a projectile class? Oh, there are floats in this class. Well, there shouldn't be. We should change that. See, this is the point of having an entity class. Make everything uniform, make sure everything's following the same rules. When we set up the projectile class, we accidentally set width and height to floats, when they should be integers, because they're not going to be, you can't have a texture that is, between pixels. So we're going to change that real quick, change width and height to integers, just add them right here, width, height. So we need to change in the constructor here, from floats to integers. And that's that. That wasn't that bad. And now our projectile officially follows the rules of our entity class, just like our tower and our enemies. So, on to the actual episode. Our tower class here is going to be an abstract class. And I know I said that, a couple of episodes back. I was trying to explain what that meant, and I don't know if I did a really good job, but hopefully it'll become clear when we start using it practically in our game. So, first step is just to write abstract. And now it's officially an abstract class. Simple as that, huh? So what we're going to do now is we're going to fill out this tower class with a couple methods that we think every tower is going to use. So just like our entity interface, we had methods that we think everything that's drawn to the screen should use. The point of our tower class is that we're going to write all these methods once that every tower is going to use, and that way we don't need to rewrite them again. So you see here the difference is in our entity class, we're just naming the methods, right? We're just saying we want get x, get y, get width, get height. In our abstract class, we have them filled out already. So get x returns x. What we just did in the projectile class is pretty much already done in this tower class. So when we make something that extends this tower class, we don't need to refill out everything and, add those unimplemented methods. They're already, we can just call them from this super tower class here. So a couple more things that I think every tower should have is a target. Now this is a little bit interesting because we will have some towers that kind of do like area of effect, just damage everything in a certain area kind of deal. But I imagine for that we can just pass in a null target and work from there. So everything will have a target, width and height, x and y. Everything will have a damage, which actually can just be an integer. Unless we want to keep that in the projectile class. So we're doing so far. Damage, damage. Let's see in our tower cannon class. I'm just kind of going back here to see how we did it so far. Yeah, so we do have a damage in here, and then we're passing that to the projectile. Okay, so we'll just keep doing that then. So in our tower, we will add damage here. Yep, and target and draw. Every tower is going to be drawn somewhat the same, and that is just draw quad text at. Let's see, what's the order of arguments here? Texture, X, Y, width, height. Okay. Oh, that's another thing we need. Obviously. Every tower will have a texture. Private, texture, texture. In fact, we should probably put that in the entity interface, but hold on, we'll do that in a second here. Texture, texture, okay? And we're going to draw that texture at our X and our Y with a width and a height. And we probably need to import this, yep. So at the top, import static helpers dot artist dot draw quad text. There we go. So we can get rid of that line for now in the update method. All right, I just closed the window, so hopefully there's not so much background noise as there was before. There is a child playing hockey in the cul-de-sac that I live in. So now I look like the grumpy old programmer man that just shut my window. Anyway, what we're going to do now is make a new class. And again, this is not going to be a final tower that's going to stay in our game forever, probably. It's more just a way for us to work out this abstract tower class and kind of fill it out and see what we do need and what we don't need and test it out in the game. So we're going to go to make a new class here. And you already saw at the beginning of the episode, I'm just going to call it Tower Cannon Blue, named after our great Forerunner tower cannon. And what we can do in here is type extends tower. So tower is this abstract class that we have here, and we're saying we're going to extend it, meaning that we're going to have access to all of the methods and variables inside the tower class, and we can either add our own methods and variables on top of that as in extending it, or we can replace them with the override function. But for now, we're just going to keep the default and make a constructor. So public tower cannon blue. In fact, you know what? We should make a constructor in our tower class first. Yeah, because we don't have one here yet. So for our tower constructor, public tower, we will take a texture, a X, Y, width, and height, and that's all we need for now. We can fill it out more later. That was the wrong bracket. There we go. And you guys know what to do at this point. Just fill out these right here. X equals X, Y equals Y. All right, and it's no coincidence that this is everything we need for our draw method, because that's what we're gonna be doing this episode, is just testing out our draw method in this super class. So we get a texture, X, Y, width, and height, which is being passed in our constructor here, texture, X, Y, width, and height. And now we're in our new tower cannon blue class. And we should really think of this. This is the way we're going to be making all of our new towers. So, for those of you that are trying to, not really go ahead, but kind of go off on your own and make new towers and enemies and stuff to kind of extend the game we're working on, just keep in mind this is how you're going to be doing it. So try to think of this tower cannon blue as a placeholder for any new tower that you're going to want to make in the future. Okay. So to recap real quick what we did, the first step is to make a new class for each tower you're going to make. We'll probably organize these some more, like put it in a tower folder, all of our towers, so they don't get mixed up. But at any rate, you're going to make a new class for your new tower. You're going to say it extends our tower superclass. It's called a superclass. Extends tower. And now we're going to make a constructor. Now in this case, we're not going to change anything from our superclass. Because remember, this tower cannon blue is just to test out our superclass and just to demonstrate what a superclass can do. Or an abstract class in this case. So we're not going to change anything from the constructor. So basically, you can do the same thing here. Just take a texture, an X, a Y, a width, and a height. And we're going to do something a little special here. First, we're going to import the texture. We'll do that after. So you'll see we have no variables in this tower cannon blue class. But like I said, we can already use the variables and methods in our tower abstract class. So even though they're not written in here, because we're extending tower, we have access to kind of the same compartments and variables that this tower class does. So I'll just demonstrate. Instead of filling it out like this, where we set it to a variable, we can just say super texture X, Y, width, height. And now we will need to import the texture class right there. So if that didn't show up for you, just write this line right here. And we're done. That's our entire constructor for our tower cannon blue. By saying super, we're saying that we want to use the constructor that we're inheriting from, the tower. And we're going to pass in texture X, Y, width, and height. So it basically says, all right, well, we'll just say with that texture X, Y, width, and height, we're going to set it to the appropriate variables. And now we have access to all of these methods that work with those variables, including draw. So you might be able to tell my voice is a little scratchy. I'm still not feeling great, like I said. So we're going to wrap this up pretty soon here. But we're going to draw this on the screen like I promised so we can see something new in the game. So we're going to go ahead and go to the... how can we quickly get this on the screen? In the game class. Okay. Let's make a new private tower cannon blue. And I'll just name it blue. Then in our constructor, we're going to set blue equal to a new tower cannon blue. And the texture is quick load tower cannon base. Oops. Cannon base blue. And X and Y, we'll just say, 128, 128. Width is 64, 64. And now after we draw our grid, we're going to say blue dot draw. And you see, once we say blue dot, we have all the methods available to our tower cannon blue. So even though we didn't write any of these methods inside of our tower cannon blue class, see it's completely empty, we have access on this tower cannon blue object to all of the methods of our tower class. So these last couple episodes, the last one being before our cleanup episode, the interface episode, as well as this new tower abstract class, I hope you guys can see that the point of these episodes is to make it super easy for us to make a lot of new variations of something, like a lot of new, entities, can be anything drawn, a lot of new different towers, and soon a lot of new different enemies, without having to rewrite the same code over and over and over. Because now we can just inherit from these various classes and interfaces and abstract classes and automatically get access to all those methods and variables without having to rewrite it in a bunch of different tower classes. So I hope that makes sense what we're trying to do. So we have access to all these variables or methods, so we can just say blue.draw. And even though it's not in the tower cannon blue class, it does exist in our tower superclass. And it's nice to draw using our texture, X, Y, width, and height. So let's go ahead and try that out. If it worked, we should see just the base of a tower cannon blue, about 2 tiles in and 2 tiles down, if my math is correct. Let's go ahead and try it. And there it is. My math was not correct, but there it is. Looking pretty good, huh? Over the water, it actually doesn't look that great. Also, just to try out the new textures real quick, if we want to go to the tower cannon class and change this cannon gun to cannon gun blue, and then go to our player class, and change cannon base to cannon base blue, just so you guys can see. We'll change this back in a second, but just so you can see the new texture. It looks kind of cool. I'm not really sure how we're gonna do, all of the, kind of details of our game, such as gameplay, like as in, upgrading towers and stuff like that. Obviously, we can code whatever you want to. I'll probably put up a couple of votes on Patreon to see if you guys have any suggestions on, upgrades and stuff. Because the reason I bring this up is when I look at these towers, the red version, the blue version, it just gives me ideas for how we could do stuff in the future, such as like upgrading towers. Do we want different levels of towers? Like, can we start like green and then upgrade to blue and then red? I don't know. That's all in the future. But it looks pretty cool to have a different tower on the screen for once. And next episode, we're going to get into actually being able to kind of make these two towers unique, I guess is what I'm trying to say. So we'll probably make a new projectile for our tower cannon blue class and be able to place both the tower cannon regular and tower cannon blue on the screen and see the differences between them and have 2 fully working separate towers. So before I end the episode, let's go ahead and change cannon base blue back to cannon base and cannon gun blue back to cannon gun so we don't forget. And in our game class, go ahead and get rid of our blue, blue, blue. So we now have a tower cannon blue class. We could keep this here for now. And this is a good example if any of you want to try and go, experiment on your own and make your own tower cannon classes. Just extend the tower and make your own texture, and it's as easy as that. Okay guys, thank you for watching, and I will see you next week on Indie Programmer.